Hello, 20 minutes, so I'm not going to give a long introduction. I work as Atelier Rene Knip. Oh no, I have to say thank you, Paul, and thank you, Michael, to invite me. It's really a pleasure to be in Minneapolis. I saw a marvelous museum yesterday already. Atelier Rene Knip, that's where I am. This is some iron letters in the garden of my old home. Here I am sitting. I also designed furniture, benches. This is all, things you can buy with letters in it. And this is a fish. It's an arrow. It says, like, go on. I was studying law. I'm 54 years old now, but I was studying law. And then one day I thought, like, let's do something really nice. So I quit law, got to the School of Arts, decided to become an artist. I wanted to become like Van Gogh or a painter. But I ended up making a lot of calligraphy and a lot of etchings, like a graphist. So I thought, okay, that's what I could do. I did it all the time. Then I met an old man, Chris Brandt, and he was a classical type designer. No Apple involved, only pencil. And he took me as a kid and he said, look, you're not an artist, you're a graphic designer. You're a type designer. I'm going to learn it. So that's what I ended up, drawing a lot of pencil letters. And this is just one sketch out of the hundreds and hundreds at that time. He was teaching me personally at his home. Like I was a classical piano player. But I didn't want to do it. I ended up with this. What is this? An ugly typeface. Looks Optima, Hermann Zapf kind of thing. But it's stencil, or it is pencil. It's not done in a computer. It's all done by hand. It's just a photo of pencil work. So at least I learned how to train my hand. And I forgot all about it. Then I thought what I really liked is to play outside. I thought I don't want to spend all my time in the studio behind the screen. Yes, we had an Apple computer at that time. We started with the Classic. So I started to look in the outside world. And I'm sure, carefully looking in the outside world is still my main source of inspiration. And I'm sure you all have this kind of images, structure of letters, architectural letters which are not in ink, but yet they're letters, and they're sometimes beautiful, and they're materialized. So I have hundreds of images like this, like probably all of you if you're traveling. Paris, old-fashioned work, beautifully done. Cuba, welcome to Palma. Some simple lettering, which is just done by a brush, and I just like it. Also a lot of work which is not done specifically by a type designer, just most of the time. Well, this is beautiful in Vienna. This is really well known, beautifully done. But like this is telling the word market. It's in Norway, somewhere in a harbor. But look at the junction of the R of the K. I like it. No designers involved, yet very human. I like this kind of typefaces. So you can imagine, look at the G and the E here, simple tiling, and then you can think like, and the whole alphabet like that. No, look at the V, the H, and then they start to cut little pieces. And here, it's where you see the human touch. It's not so much designed, it's not a universe, but I like this kind of work, hundreds. This, beautiful, bent, casted, beautiful, just 2 stripes of metal. Theater in Suriname, in Paramaribo. Stencil. Well, I have nothing to add here. Like the stencil versions, where they build a bridge, look at the A, I think it's marvelous. I just keep this as source material. And here, this is an old stencil I saw 2 weeks ago from a sailmaker where they make old-fashioned sails. It was in a museum, but I also like it. Look at the K or the M. So I ended up not designing a type for books or for newspapers, but just more playful, more environmental type. This was one of my first tile alphabets I did for the HEMA, for a store in the Netherlands. I just quickly go through some of my work. I'm not going to explain a lot about the assignments exactly because I show a lot of things, and I only have 20 minutes. This was done in 5 hours. This was done with a filth. I made an alphabet for a place where they didn't have any money. So I said, okay, I'll give you 1 day, draw something, give it to you, you can use it. And that's how it ended. I started to design type which I could hang on wires, because like in a hall like this, why do we always have to put things on the wall? I want to have it in the middle of the place. So I designed this plastic hanging laundry sans. I called it a laundry sans, like hanging laundry. And it was all designed, and they used it for the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, and they also gave me money at that time. So I figured out it was really, really a good idea to make your own projects, just do it, and then sell it afterwards, instead of waiting for the client to come to you. So I did that a lot of times. It gave me a lot of freedom. I made stencil alphabets, things simple to make a simple signing. This says soup, but then in Dutch. Soup, almost the same. And this is the way I work. Although I left the drinking, the Calvados, but I spent a lot of evenings just by myself, enjoying pieces of paper. And this project got me to a hanging alphabet, a flag alphabet. And I sold it to a printer's place. It was already done, sold it to the guy. So what did I do with the type design? I just thought I enjoy designing type as illustration, as a kind of approach of every time. Is that 40 minutes? Oh, that's okay. This is a potato. Cut the potato, make a type out of it, print it, and you have all the potato alphabet, and here we are. It's beautiful. You cannot do it in Photoshop. You cannot. Take a potato, take a simple knife, spend an evening, and you have an alphabet. You can always scan it later on and get it more, more technical. A little bit attention to this alphabet. I designed this one for the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra. I'm still working for them in Amsterdam. I can show a lot of work, but I'm not going to do that. It's just 26 letters, some numbers. You see that the letters are flattened because I wanted to use them in posters, and these are the simple posters. I use color as music, as a kind of sound. And this is, of course, the pine is Lang Lang. It's marvelous to get a name like this, to put it on the street, because then you have a poster saying, Lang Lang is in town. Hello, go there. So I made a whole series of posters. Well, they speak for themselves. And also I tried color schemes which are completely un-Dutch. The Dutch, I hate them for using color. We are a gray country. And that's what the Dutch tried to solve that by using a lot of very bright, very ugly blues and greens. I hate it. So I always get my inspiration from Nepal or India or completely other countries. And that's exactly what the Dutch people can see, your coloring is a bit strange. Yes, I do it on purpose. Death Island. This is a play by Prokofiev, Trois Oranges in French. But I thought, let's put the Dutch name on it, Drie Sinaasappelen. And I gave it the color of an orange. Perfectly, makes sense. And here, Janine Jansen, she's very good at the violin. Maris Jansson, he is a director. And I made it almost sexual, just by giving the same letters, the same colors for the two who are on stage performing. Sometimes I did other things for festivals in the same kind of style. Or Shostakovich, more in a kind of Russian constructivist way. Mahler. At the end, I ended up by having posters on the street with just a number on it. The third of Mahler, the fourth, the fifth. So I skipped all the thing of classical music, ended up with a soccer playing number on the street. And I don't know why they accepted it. I don't know. I would definitely say, no, don't do that, Knip. We're not going to do that. Yes, they did. And I had no place for the zero, so I made it smaller. This is the concert hall, and this is a kind of the approach of the hall. I did a tram, this is last month. And, okay, city type, here we have, the whole tram is city type. Africa Museum made a lettering, more like sculptures. Very playful approach, wherein lettering and sign could be almost the same. Because I thought this whole park of this is a theme park about Africa, also the architecture of Africa. And I thought, let's make it more sculptural, more fun. So I ended up with this kind of signs. It's not a kind of signing which you need to go from A to B, like you're on the airport or in the metro. This is more, that you want to enjoy it. It does not even have to be too readable. No, none of my typefaces are too readable. I do that also on purpose. So, of course, if I have to say simple things, then you can read it. I have secondary fonts to communicate. But I like the welcoming word, to find the entrance. I put the sculptures just on the lawn and said, no, we have to, how do you say that in English? Mow it, or with the machine? Exactly. I said, then you have to put them out. and then you put them back. But where do we stand it? Well, wherever you want, just get them in the lawn, and then we continue. So here I was asked to give the school, this is a school in Rotterdam, to give it a name above the head entrance, above the door. And I thought, well, we can also use the whole building. And we ended up doing this. And it took a little bit more money, but not so much. And I took the size, the size of the lettering is exactly the window. You know, the window, I measured the window, I said, well, that's the size for the type, is the right size? So at the end, I started archetype with Janno Haan. I did archetype with Janno Haan. He was an intern, very good designer at the moment. He's working independently, and sometimes we still do things together. And we were looking in the collection of things I did in earlier days and tried to make a proper selection of some environmental, architectural type, 24 fonts. Well, it's not really a font, you know. It's more for architects or other people to use it for on a building or whatever. And I'll give you a few examples. These fonts have everything to do with taking pieces of wood or fold aluminium. This is a whole signing system for the what's it called? The town hall of Rotterdam. And I'm not going to show you that either. But it's just about folding lettering. This is hanging lettering. We thought if it's getting heavy, I want to have a vertical alphabet. And, or things are milled. This is milled, you call it in English, I guess. Or nailed. And it's very simple, you know, just take a lot of nails and start to do your work. So it has everything to do with materializing type. So sometimes, you know, we're invited to do just a little house. My projects are not so big. I work alone. I'm a small studio, I do small things. And here it took 2 colors paint, $400, and the whole thing was done with tape, no curves involved. So here I folded an alphabet because I got a poem of a poet, and I had to hang it somewhere in the landscape for the ships passing by the canal. And so I thought, well, that's a lot of text. So I started to make a folded alphabet in aluminium. And the kerning was done on the ground, of course, by just having it printed because I could not do it in the air. So we ended up with people who had to hang the lines, and this is what it is. It is in the landscape. It has not a lot of form because I wanted to have it as a page of a simple book. You read the poem. It is in Frisian language. And you see here the air is the typographical white. It's simple. Yet it was like 30 meters high. It was quite... Wakey, wakey, rise and shine. Radiohead. We put that one in London. We had a lot of London projects, and we just put it on with students. We designed it, put it on, and walked away. You know, as a kind of three-dimensional type graffiti. But they didn't take it off. It was there for almost a month or 2 months. And here I used the same typeface connected for the entrance of a bookstore. And they asked me to put the logo here on top of the bookstore. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We put all the names of the words, European words for books, and then we make like it is as a skin. Because I like architecture and typography, graphic design to be coherent, to be together. Another simple example, same typeface, you know, put it on the school. These are 3 little projects done with the same typeface, but differently. I started to cast numbers. I started to design clocks, casted aluminium clocks, still for sale. I started to make a fire basket with one-word poetry. I started to write myself, get it in. So you could read, this is maans, means moon. And I see the word web, and simple words. And here it is burning. Well, we have this tradition in the Netherlands that you burn it on your yard. You know, you burn some wood and things, and you are there with some friends. Then at the moment, I have 10 types of fireplace stoves I designed for a factory, which are now for sale. In this project, I designed a lighthouse. And for that, I designed this typeface, which is unispaced typeface. Put it on. It's a long story, the whole project. But here is my little lighthouse. Put it on the square. It's a roundabout. Burns like hell. And so we burned it one time. We were licensed to do so, and at the end, the village said, no, we don't want to burn it anymore. Because the whole villages and the fire alarm all came, and we had this letter of the town hall, said, no, it's part of the art project, we can burn it. So no, stop it. And here we did a whole traffic situation with one typeface. It was the silly opening. I mean, who invents this incredibly silly opening? Never mind. We did tile design, here, and then also a matrix for the bigger letters. It's all the same typeface. And even, you saw the fence to divide bicycles from cars. And well, what I really wanted is to have a coherent feeling. Here you do not feel that the architect is already gone, and then the graphic designer comes to paste something on. This feels like one thing. Bicycle, Dutch, bicycle. And even in sculpture, same typeface. A bench, I did. And here I designed this typeface. I still like that. 4 minutes, points. Here, this is not a letter on a grid, because the diagonal has more little dots in it. So it is, if you look carefully to the 8, the junction of the 8 or the X, for instance, then you see that it's differently detailed. It's all about detail. And it's quite readable. And you cannot destroy it. You don't paint it. It has no maintenance. I got the idea because I saw the little holes in the design of the architect of the bench, because to get rid of the rain water. So I thought, okay, if we have this process, that the whole bench must go to a machine to make the little holes, we can do all graphic with the graphics, the lettering also with the little holes. There we are. I also started to make a lot of calligraphy. This is a love letter. I had a love, I'm not going to tell about this love, but this was my last letter to the girl after 14 years. I said, I write you one last letter. What happened? And this is it. It's all of iron, laser cut iron. But I also started to make poetry in cities, this is to mask in a way. I don't know what it is. It's whatever, it is something. But I have a poem around it. It's Corten steel. And I did it for a museum in the north of the Netherlands, Groningen, where I started to write in the aluminium and attached everything three-dimensional as a very light handwriting. And I started to color the whole museum because I thought that the holes were really dull. So I ended up, you see, this is really three-dimensional. That was strange. The director said, why should you do such a thing? I said, I don't know, but let's do it. It's within the budget. I thought it was. He said, well, okay, kid, do it. And so that's how we did it. And even in this, oh yeah, it's a good color. I saw these old paintings, I thought, well, orange could do. This is my last project, 2 minutes, underground in Amsterdam. It's a renovation of an underground metro line, which is called the Eastern Line, Oostlijn, the Oostlijn. I was commissioned by the architect group who did it. And they had tiles, and these tiles are roughly 10 centimeters by 30. We don't count in inches. And I designed a simple set of elements, full tile red, half tile red, circle. Well, you can see these are all elephants, and I build up typography with it and images. So I start with the typography. I wanted to have it stenciled because it had to get back in the oven. The white tiles get back in the oven for the second time. And you can easily work with the transfer foil to put it on, but it makes it very straight and kind of not so human. It makes it very stiff. So I thought, I enjoyed going into Paris or old cities that sometimes the tiling work is still stenciled. It's done by hand. And I thought, well, we have to do 10 stations, but I want to have it handcrafted. I wanted to have this human feeling again back. That's what I try in most of my work, that I like geometry to use, but I don't want to get rid of the human feeling or the female feeling or I want people to grab the work, to attach it. I want to communicate. I don't want to have a long story. I try to make work which is immediately accessible for people. That's what I try. So I enjoy this little thing. So I started to experiment in the tiling factory by the Tegelaar in the north of the Netherlands to see what kind of stencil. Did I need to use paper or plastic stencils, or did I use a sponge or a brush, or what technique? And how to find the red coloring, because the oven is behaving differently all the time. It's cracking, or it gets too orange or too dark, or, well, at the end, a long process, we got the recipe for the red. And that's how every tile is done by hand, by using paper stencils, thousands of them. And I designed this alphabet, which is, of course, based on the measuring system of the tiles. and started to, I was invited for this season, not to give for the wayfinding, that does Paul Meixner. He's much better than I, he did Schiphol, he knows exactly where people go and how to indicate. I'm just invited to give it more identity, to give it the feeling that if people travel along this line, that they have something to remember, to give it a certain identity. That's when they call me. And it's a work in progress, so it's now produced in the coming years. We only have 3 stations which also have some image work. I will show you later on. So I have 20 or 30% of the work is done. So and the images, most of the images you've seen in this lecture are done by me. So that's not so good. I'm a very bad photographer. That's really true. Waterlooplein, Waterloo Square, Amsterdam. We're in Amsterdam now. This is new work. This is done 2 months ago. You know, even we make round tiles, you know. And you still see that it's really, you can touch it. Well, I hope you like it. This is in the evening, the feeling. You can imagine if you walk by that and you see this image, that you feel like you're part of the Oostlijn, Central Station. I designed it for the type very big, you know, 7 rows of tiles, so it makes a capital height of 70 centimeters. And also I did it smaller, because sometimes it's too big, so I had the same structure, but then on 3.5 tile. And it's, you know, it indicates like this. Bad picture again from Mr. Knip. Rijgersbos, van de Madeweg. You see, and also here it works, you know, and also you accept all the bridges of the stencil version because of the tiny work. For me, it feels natural. Central Station, even to have it really small, I made a vertical system of lettering, which you use if you get to a line like this, or people want to know that they're at Central Station, Amsterdam. Then I worked on the images, and 30 years ago I was making books. When I was trying to become an artist, I did a lot of printing books and strange little things. I was intrigued by scripts, calligraphy, signs, things to read, things, do I understand it, don't I understand it? I found this old book last week, and I thought, likewise, it's incredible, because if you look carefully to this old student work, this is done in 83, last century, somewhere 17th century, I've done this. And yet, look at so after 30 years, I get it back, and I make these strange images. So the architect said to me, what is this? I said, I don't know. It is an image, and I want passengers to have exactly the same feeling, that they're on this station, they're waiting there for a few minutes, and they look at it and think, what the fuck is this? And then I said, well, I don't know. So it's waiting for meaning. It's waiting for people to give it meaning. So you end up standing here looking at these very strange technical drawings. But it's complete nonsense, I tell you. What's this? What is this? What am I going to do if I see this? This is a design which they're working on now. It's 75 meters long. Strange. I mean, why do they accept this? This is also which they are working on now. What is this? This is a fight in the Middle Ages. What is this? Or this Pac-Man. This is a Pac-Man who ran out of petrol, or I don't know. But that's exactly, I don't even know what it is, so I hope that, because it doesn't make sense. We have so many nationalities living in Amsterdam using this Eastern line, specific this line, because it goes to the more outside areas where not the richest people live. So I have all these languages, people from Somalia, people from Turkey. So I thought we need visual language, and we need to do it in a way that we do not force people to say, look, this is the image, this is how you have to understand it, it's about Amsterdam, it's about history, or it's about art, and you give it to the people. No, I want to give them images which are free to understand in a way. So this is another example which actually is done. It's finished a few months ago. Here we are. Another one who's finished. Strange. You see a little piece of Zandberg work. You know, if you know the guy, Zandberg, well, doesn't matter. images, all on the line. I end up with this image. They have to make it still. But I like this guy. He's entering the metro, and I help him to understand the last bits of his life, that he knows a little bit where he's going to. You know, that he's like, yeah, this makes sense. Let's go somewhere. So I'm, in a way, I'm anti-wayfinding here. I'm not helping Meixner. That's exit. Last things. I found this stone 15 years ago when I had a walk with Anton Beke. And I thought, oh, wow, a fish. It's a piece of silex stone on the beach in Normandy, France. It's a fish. So I took the stone. It's still in my house. Because the fish was lying there, dead, not swimming anymore in the ocean. Last month, I took my little boy to the zoo, Artis, Amsterdam. And so there's my stone again. It's the same. Then I was in Greece, and I rented a sailing boat, and I woke up, and I was next to this fish. And he was looking at me. I thought, well, there he is again. So I saw him, you know, what is it, a dinosaur? He fell in love with the other one. He's hunting her. It's not plaster. This is a horse in Tokyo. A bull. Beautifully, he cannot Dubai, bull. So this is an animal. It's not a letter. Thank you. Am I okay, Tom?
So tell us about I guess it was the professor or the person who said you're not an artist, you're a graphic designer. And how did he make that distinction?
Well, that was Chris Brandt. At the end, he was 79 years old, and he died, I guess, 15 years ago. But he was a great guy, because he was teaching on the School of Arts, but he did graphic design, applied arts, and he also did the artist, because at that time, it was still very important that people started to make some calligraphy and train their hands. Drawing was important, and I'm happy that it was important at that time. So when I made a decision going to the autonomous direction of art, then he saw me, every time he saw me doing calligraphy and lettering, and he thought, oh, poor kid, he's going into the wrong direction. I have a graphic designer here and I cannot touch him. So he took me and he said, you're not an artist, you're a graphic designer, you're a designer. I said, no, I want to become an artist. He said, no. If you're an artist, there will be pieces of your art in your work, because you cannot avoid it. But I better train you as a graphic designer. We have poor artists enough. And then he started to ask me, draw me an A and an O with a pencil, 4 centimeters high. That was the end. He was like a Buddhist priest, like, do this, do that, 2 lines, and I was drawing. And he said, do you want to have some lessons at my place? Yeah, I want to have you Monday evening, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday once in the 2 weeks, Monday, Wednesday, every time. I said, okay. So I came there. And then I came there with my work, just simple pencil drawings, as you saw. And then sometimes he looked at me, I climbed the stairs, he looked at it. He said, poor work, no concentration, no time. Go down with my wife, get a cup of tea there. I have no time tonight. So I got down, and there's his Belgian wife said, well, what happened? He said, well, he didn't like what I did. Oh, come on. So she climbed the stairs to ask him, well, why the kids? They said, no, I want to see him. He's lazy. He has to learn how to concentrate himself, because he's like a Sunday kid. He's not working hard. He's not concentrated. I'm training him. So that's what he did. You know, we kept on going. And then at the end, I took another road. But I learned a lot from this guy. He knew a lot about Robert Motherwell and Cy Twombly, and he was really involved. He was a great man.
And then you went to work for Anton.
I spent Anton Beke's studio in Amsterdam for 3 years.
Does this audience know Anton Beke? He's a Dutch graphic designer. His work is broad-based. He works a lot with imagery and typography, witty, funny, still alive, amazing.
Yeah, well, we became friends, and that's what we did immediately. We became friends, and for the rest, we were always struggling together, because I was much more into typography and handwriting things, and Anton was very much into sexuality and the image, you know, and I helped him a lot with these kind of things. I became more or less his lettering man, but after 2.5 years already, I wanted to escape from this very tough Anton Beke language. Was great. And we were already friends. He became like my father and son, and we still are. So we knew that. I only had to quit him immediately to make my own road, and well, that was what happened. I still see him, I still see him.
I have a philosophical question. Our last speaker in the general session yesterday afternoon was T. Uglo, and she talked about sort of a designer helping people achieve a state of not fully understanding things, of kind of living in a, sort of like encountering something and the pleasure in sort of not understanding it. Can you, that's obviously something that really interests you, and shockingly so for someone who has any adjacency to wayfinding and signage, where it's all ostensibly about functionality and making it all foolproof and fail-safe. Can you talk about the pleasure of not understanding?
Well, I think that I am not invited to do the real wayfinding, more important things. I could be involved in that because I had a certain talent for it. I know, but I thought if I do this, then I got stuck into, which is completely reasonable, a lot of knowledge, like the Max in our studio. I know. So, and if I behave like here, I can be more playful, and I think that this playfulness is quite needed. Sometimes people just want to see the pictures without a long story. In Holland, we have certain design directions in schools. We have the Krauwel School, them all, and they're great. It's a great, strong little country in graphic design. But also, you need some strange people who are kind of strolling around the whole landscape, just doing things. I'm one of them. I try to make my story not too complex. And work more on intuition. And it's also like with making these images for the underground, I make a lot. It's not that I make one image and here you go. I make a lot. And then sometimes I choose something that I think this is too obvious, or I have a piece of work that I do not understand. And it's intriguing me. After a week, I'm still looking at these parts and pieces, and they become, for me, more important, because I do not know exactly what to do with it. And that's what I offer them. And if they say, what are we going to do with it? I'm really honest that I say, I don't know, just put it on. Because this is exactly what I want to achieve, that people get this connection, because you do not know why it's there. That's a connection too.
How do the architects who work with you, or the various people that hire you, perceive you? Do they perceive you as a designer, or do they perceive you as an artist?
I think sometimes in between, but I want to be very clear about it. An artist is doing something else. That's really true. I'm a designer. I'm really a designer because the work has purpose. I work within the budget. It has a function. Perhaps sometimes I behave a bit more free, so I use other ingredients like playfulness or whatever in my work, but within the borders of applied arts. An artist, an autonomous thinker and actor, a real artist is somebody else. So I don't want to flirt with the idea of being an artist. I'm a designer.
So time for one question from the audience. Yes.
With your subway diagrams, if they had installed any tile incorrectly, would you notice?
The question was those the free subway installations at the very end. If any of them were installed wrong, would you notice?
The architect noticed because we have a German girl, Pia Fischer, and it took her some time to understand what I was doing anyhow, but she started to like it. She always said to me, this is not possible in Germany. Not at all. And then I explained her, so at the end she was enjoying it. And then she was like, she took a photo of when the work was in progress, because as architects, they're much more in the fields. I'm doing different things, and I come at the end. She said, well, there's one tile would, and it's straight, and it has an angle at the right. And I said, okay, can we change it? Yes, we can still, change it. Can we change it? No, we can't. Well, keep it. So it's not going to, if there, at the end, there will be like 4 or 5 little tiles which are wrongly placed for a whole project, but it doesn't change. It's no, you have with graphic design, sometimes they have a poster or an identity in a certain red, Pantone, this color. And then you have these guys going to the printer's place and they spend 2 hours stealing their time of these hardworking people just to bother with a type of red, and then they have to, oh my God, and this is slightly different. I think, well, this is nonsense. This is really nonsense. It's just spoiling time. It's playing the designer, because it's It doesn't matter. Make a good red and put it next to another red, which is also a good red. Perhaps slightly different because of the paper, because now it's on a cup, because now it's in plastic. You cannot, just escape from that. Say it's red. Yeah. It's red. You wanted red.
Rene,
It is
thank
red.
you.